Before I go any further, the Kickstarter for Horror Not Hate is live. So please go to Kickstarter, back Horror Not Hate, the anthology that, yes, I am actually in. So, I'm not completely objective in this one, but I saw some more art this morning from J.M. Brandt, the editor of Horror Not Hate, and I was blown away. And again, every time I see somebody else's story, I go like, I can't believe I'm in the same book as this. Anyway, all the proceeds after printing and distribution will go to benefit civil rights groups, specifically this Hey Planeteers, welcome to the last stack of 2025. The last video I did mentioned that, of course, there was a Christmas Eve stack, and as I thought, a stack on New Year's Eve. And that's when I'm recording this. I have combined the two because I was out away from House of Secrets in Burbank until Monday. And then I realized, thanks to it being New Year's Eve, there was only a couple of new comics that I actually picked up. So I'm combining these stacks, and each week, of course, I buy comics at House of Secrets in Burbank, and then I go through the stack. Sometimes I read a few. I'm a few weeks behind in the majority of my stacks, so I talk about those that I was able to read without having to go back into a bunch of other stacks and catch up. And then uh, I go through the rest of what I bought so I can talk about why I still wanted to pick that up, even if I'm a few issues behind. The first one I'm going to mention today, which actually did come out on December 31st. That's New Year's Eve. Anyway, Sorcerer Supreme by Steve Orlando, Bernard Chang on art. Color artist is Ruth Redmond, and the letterer is VC's Corey Petit. And I have been following Steve Orlando's work on Scarlet Witch since, I guess, since it really started. And what I've really liked about it is that even though I do read other Marvel comics, and I read a lot on the Marvel app, so that puts me a few months behind, I've never felt out of step when I'm reading Steve Orlando's work on the Scarlet Witch, writing work. It's been a couple of different artists, but it's been one kind of cool narration and narrative, and they finish up. They just did a Vision in the Scarlet Witch 5-issue series, and then it rolls into this, which ties into a larger, Emperor Doom crossover, and now it's World Without Doom, and Wanda has become the Sorcerer Supreme. And right there in that title, I love that. This is not gendered at all, as our language should evolve to that. He is the Sorcerer Supreme, except what makes this book kind of cool is the extra dimensional beings that usually choose who the Sorcerer Supreme is on Earth did not choose Wanda, but the tools of Stephen Strange and then Victor Von Doom now chose Wanda to be their protector and to make her the Sorcerer Supreme. So I feel like there's an interesting narrative here. And again, I'm going to say that Steve Orlando and Bernard Chang pull this all together in a way that you don't really need to know what had largely happened. This is Wanda's story, and I love it. And I love her supporting cast, which has pulled in some characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and made Marvel Comics versions of them, such as Darcy. And Darcy is the coolest thing ever. And it is a shame that the Marvel Cinematic Universe really can't go in this direction, because they should. Wanda and Darcy in this incarnation running a bookstore in Lot Kill, New York. It's just a cool setup, which again makes this very individual. The other thing I really like about this, and I think this has been kind of a slow evolution, and I will give credit to Ruth Redmond for this, is that Wanda is, all the coloring is lush, but that her skin has been darkened in this, which means, because Wanda and Pietro are both Romani, and that's rarely adequately been portrayed in comics. And look, sadly, no shade on Elizabeth Olsen, quite literally no shade. It's not really been the way they were portrayed on screen. So I like that it's been a slow turn towards diversity, and yeah, that's just me. I love seeing that, and to be reminded, because I know that there are fans that have been upset that she hasn't been portrayed that way, and yet, I mean, it's clear. So there we go. That was Sorcerer Supreme. That was the one book out of the very few that I bought this week that I read today. So let me go back into things that I read on Monday. First of all, Absolute Martian Manhunter #7, which I mentioned in a previous video. I was so excited that it's going beyond these 6 issues that I thought it was only intended to be, because this book is just weird. And I'm gonna say I'll probably still take till like Friday to write my great books of 2025. But out of the Absolute universe, because last year I think I called out Absolute Batman, in 2025, Absolute Martian Manhunter was just a great book because it played with the form. I have a friend, Mark Prock, playwright in Chicago, who doesn't have an interest in getting into the Absolute universe because he feels it's more like his actual daily viewpoint being reflected back, and that's not why he reads comics. Absolutely valid point of view. I just want to say that, I get it. We all have different tastes and so forth, and we can still be friends. But anyway, Absolute Martian Manhunter takes that reflection of, like, in this world that has been so infected by the spirit of Darkseid and everything's a little wrong and weird and gross. Absolute Martian Manhunter, still 7 issues in, hasn't quite explained what it is. He's not Martian. That's just what John Jones, takes it as, defines it as, because that's what his mind can handle. Oh, it's a Martian. It looks very different, and it's really looking for the goodness and the kindness in humanity and trying to protect that. And I love that concept. I didn't mention the actual talent behind it, and let me get there. Writer is Dennis Camp, and art is Javier Rodriguez. And I love that, you know, it's easy for DC to do this when the creators have passed away, but it does acknowledge that the original Martian Manhunter was created by, I'm not sure I can read it because the print is so small for me, Joseph Semixon and Joe Certa. And the letters are Hassan Otsmane Chow. And that is, by the way, also the person who does the lettering on Beneath the Tree Where Nobody Sees over at IDW, which is really cool. But what else I love about this book is it actually plays with the form. And the first issue did this, and the 7th issue now does, to remind you that the Martian Manhunter in the Absolute universe definitely has a different point of view. So it's cool. I love that. American Caper #2. This is from Absurd Ventures, actually from Dark Horse Comics, but that's the imprint. Absurd Ventures, a creator and writer, Dan Hauser, producer and additional writer, Laszlo, story layouts and pencils, David Lapham, finishes Chris Anderson, colorist Lee Lowridge, and letterer is Nate Piekos of Blambot. American Caper #2. I did talk about American Caper #1, and it's a dark satire, crime piece, modern. Gets into there's one criminal or one character. I'm not going to yet say criminal, but they're definitely in way over their head, who's LDS, and there's kind of an explanation there. So Dan Hauser is taking pot shots at a lot of the veneers of America and American culture and the seedy underbelly, if you will. And I know other people have done it, and it's almost, I admit it, it is almost tired at this point, and yet this breathes new life into it. I don't know how the heck that would become, a video game, which is Hauser's, big claim to fame. But it's still actually, really, really cool. Anyway, so Hello Darkness #17, which has a lot of creators, and I'll just go through who gets, who has names on the cover. Tyler Crook, Torun Grunbeck, who I think had worked on Red Sonja over at Dynamite, so quite a bit of great reputation. and I did like the story. Isaac Goodhart, Zach Kaplan, Dennis Menhir, Joe Pruitt, Stevan Subic, and Robert Hack. And this to me is the best horror anthology on the market right now with any regularity. Like, I think that John Carpenter's Tales for a Halloween Night is good. This one is the most consistent because I would say an anthology is always a hit or miss. There's going to be some things you like and some things you don't. And I would say that I have a far higher appreciation of the stories that show up. And I give credit to Bryce Carlson, the editor over at Boom Studios. It's just highly consistent. There have been a few stories I've not liked, but it's still the best bang for my buck in terms of horror anthologies, which in comics I don't tend towards. I'll buy books, prose horror anthologies. I have several because you can, quickly read a story and then put it down for a while and you pick it back up later. But comics, it's been a lot of horror anthologies on the market, and yeah, I'm belaboring it. I apologize. Here we go. 1776, number 2. I talked about number 1. This is by Joe Straczynski. J. Michael Straczynski professionally, but if you get into a room with him, it's Joe. The penciler is Sean Damian Hill. The inkers, because there's 2, Jay Lyston and Orrin Jr., and the colorist is Alex Sinclair, good colorist, and the letterer is VC's Joe Caramagna. To remind people of the past, oh, by the way, and the cover artist is Pete Woods. And this is one of those classic moments of, it's an incredibly compelling cover in kind of that old school way. And I'm going to be honest, I did not respond well to the art within. But what I think is interesting, this is the Avengers, or some Avengers, because Spider-Man's included. And it looks like Cyclops is there too. They're going back in time to fight a plot from Morgan Le Fay, who's going forward in time and trying to upset the founding of the United States of America. And this book feels a little pedantic or didactic. I'm not sure which word I actually mean right now. So please, write in and tell me. That's editor@fanboyplanet.com. I'm absolutely fine with that. Anyway, I can't always keep those 2 terms straight, but this is educational. This is, if you go on to any social media that's a decent amount where you can control what's kind of in there, there are a lot of kind of hidden history threads going on, people talking about what we didn't talk about when we were growing up in elementary school, how we were taught American history. We got the very, very sanitized G-rated version, and history. Hey, look, this is just reality. History is R-rated. Sometimes it's X-rated or NC-17. You like that? So Straczynski is putting a lot of things in that I've seen on history threads from different points of view, and I really appreciate that. But on the other hand, because I'd recently seen a lot of that, I still have what I think is, I'm not gonna continue buying this book. I'm sorry. I love the concept. I'll catch up on the app eventually, but I just feel that it's great for a history lecture. The art, like I said, I'm not responding to very well. And overall, I'm kind of disappointed in this book, and that's an uncomfortable place for me to be, especially when it comes from Straczynski. But again, he's earned my patience. Maybe I'll go for issue number 3. We'll see. This one, I love this book, Sisterhood. It's a Hyde Street story. This is from Ghost Machine, the sub imprint, or I don't know what you want to call it, imprint out of Image Comics, or currently published by Image Comics, because their model is Ghost Machine is its own separate company, founded by Jeff Johns. The writer is Maytal Schut, and of course, please, if I've mispronounced the name, someone tell me. The artist is Elela Lays. Color artist is Alex Sinclair. I believe I've mentioned his name earlier. The letterer is Rob Lee, and there are different covers, and I don't know which one I actually got. Anyway, probably cover A by Layla Lays with Alex Sinclair coloring. This has been a miniseries kind of explaining a character that shows up in Hyde Street. It's been 5 issues. If your local comic shop doesn't have the first 4 issues, then of course wait for the trade. It's going to be a good trade. because it's a good horror story. It's very interesting. I'm not quite sure where in the Hyde Street narrative it fits. And pardon, we are sponsored this week by Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. We are not sponsored by Dr. Pepper, but boy, would I love it if they sent me a case or five. Anyway, so not sure where it fits in Hyde Street overall, but it's just cool. It's creepy. It tackles sorority life, although oh God, as any horror story, I hope it's a wild exaggeration of what actually happens. But I was not in the Greek system, if you will, when I was in college. So I don't know. I only know stereotypes. So I do know I have plenty of friends who were in fraternities and sororities in college, and they're not nearly as evil as they get portrayed in horror stories. But anyway, there we go. I mentioned this one last month, Trinity, Daughter of Wonder Woman, finishing up the miniseries, I believe, which is issue number 6 here. And it's written by Tom King. Artist is Belen Ortega. Colorist Luis Guerrero. Letterer is Clayton Cowles. And it is, I mentioned it's just fun chasing superpowered corgis through time. But it's also easy to forget that there's a sad undercurrent to this. And as a 60-year-old parent of adult children, um I found this issue very moving. And it's because the whole reason Trinity, uh, the girl, exists in this continuity is because the the king of America in the pages of Wonder Woman killed Steve Trevor, and Wonder Woman, then Princess Diana, duplicated what made her own origin. She created a baby, and that is the girl Trinity. And so in the regular pages of Wonder Woman, we're seeing the baby version of this character, and this one's from the future. And she went back in time to save, perhaps, or uh, just talk to her father, Steve Trevor, a man she could never have met because he died before she was even conceived, which in Wonder Woman logic, that does actually make sense. And so Tom King, who has always been really good at getting to the heart of the emotion of characters, though that's not necessarily what he's known for, because there's always been that gimmick of like the talking heads and so forth, and it's out of order. It's told asynchronously, and or achronologically, I think is the right big word to use there. This is a lot more straightforward, even though it's got 3 versions of Trinity, which again, I mentioned before, I love because that harkens back to uh, the days that there was Wonder Tot, Wonder Girl, and Wonder Woman. In fact, oddly enough, at House of Secrets today, I saw the first issue of Wonder Woman that I'd ever bought as a kid, and it was only like 18 bucks, I think. And I was really tempted to pick it up because I know I don't have it anymore, but it was one with Wonder Girl, the young one, with Kangas on Paradise Island. Sidebar, just that was magical for me as a kid. Bought it at a 7-Eleven, I think. Anyway, back when 7-Elevens carried comics regularly. So, yeah, Trinity really hit home, and it's an interesting thing. Again, you could buy the trade paperback when it comes out and compare to what's going on in Tom King's Wonder Woman, which I think has been an excellent book, by the way. It's a very different tone, and this has felt like a very different kind of book for Tom King to write, and yet is beautiful. It's along the lines of what they did kind of a little bit with Helen of Windhorn, which is also pushed. That was not a DC book. That was just another one you should pick up. And all I could think to talk about when I ran into Tom King at the LA Comic Con was just, oh, let me buy this hardcover of Helen of Windhorn. Anyway, Nocturnals, The Sinister Path. So we're getting to books that I have not yet read because I'm not sure that I'm caught up. I've mentioned this one before, by Dan Brereton. I love these characters, and I love Dan Brereton's art, and that's why I always buy it. Just realizing with Absolute Superman 14, as I'm thumbing through looking for credits, I may have actually caught up. And I should read this, and I didn't, so I need to. The writer is Jason Aaron. The artist is Rafa Sandoval. Anyway, Ulysses Ariola is the colorist, and Becca Carey is the letterer. I got to catch up with this because I love Absolute Superman. I love the way that it is messaged and reflected. Then there's also Absolute Wonder Woman, which has the very first ever Absolute team up, Wonder Woman and Batman, which I go back and forth. Is it Batman that's best, or is it the Absolute Wonder Woman? I think it's Absolute Wonder Woman. And just because it's such a it's a radical rethink without being a radical rethink, if that makes sense. So it also ties into Absolute Batman number 16. They call it a duet. Kelly Thompson is the writer. Hayden Sherman is the artist this issue. Jordi Belair, exquisite colors. Becca Carey is the letterer, and I love this book. And I'm actually, of all the things, I'm ashamed that I'm not caught up with this one. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2, not issue number 2, 2. It's the sequel to Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, which is issue number 6. And this is by Brian Buccellato as the writer, Christian Duce as the artist. Again, if I'm saying that wrong, please correct me. Luis Guerrero is the colorist, and Comic Craft's Tyler Smith is the letterer. This is, of course, both from the Monsterverse, Legendary Comics, and DC. They're just fun, as I find all the Monsterverse projects out of Legendary fun. You know, a bit goofy, but certainly, as I've said before, compared to Godzilla -1, which I'll rave about elsewhere. You can read my review on Fanboy Planet. The Legendary take on Godzilla and King Kong are just, it's fun. It's goofy. So we'll see. Anyway, Justice League Unlimited number 14. I think I actually did catch up last night. So I can read this, but I didn't yet. This is Mark Waid, Dan Mora, and I want to give credit to whoever is the colorist and letterer. Hang on a second, I'll get there. And once again, can you understand my frustration? I want to call out and give credit to good work, and they keep making me search. Is it page 2? Is it page 3? Is it somewhere in between where they decide, oh, there it is, page 4. Mark Waid is writer, Dan Mora is the artist, Tamara Bonvillain, colors, Ariana Mar, letters, and the cover is by Dan Mora, and it's gorgeous. And I like that this is covering different eras of certain characters. Like we have the Electric Blue Superman, not necessarily the dark time in Superman's storytelling that we remember it to be, but it's also got one of, to me, the most interesting villains of the DC universe, which, of course, everybody wants to go to Darkseid, but there's they've got their own version of Mephisto, which was, to me, one of my favorite crossovers, which is a loaded term because in the 90s, when you had to have, well, you still do have to have these annual events because we're in the middle of one, DCKO. This Neron is, to me, an underused character because I don't know why the devil himself just, takes a back seat all the time. Why would the devil take a back seat to Darkseid? We shall see. Justice League Red number 5. This side team created by the Red Tornado. It is written by Saladin Ahmed. Solid time. Clayton Henry is on art. Arif Prianto is on colors. I don't know if I'm familiar with Arif Prianto's name, but I'm sure I've seen their work. Lucas Gattoni is on letters. This is interesting, and I just want to comment that Saladin Ahmed, another writer I love, and I was just thinking about this the other day. We are in an incredible time of writers when I can't, if you pose the question, which writers do you want to, are you automatically picking up a book? It's like there are so many good ones, and I know that I have a limited amount of time each week. So it really does have to be the concepts again, which I think is a good thing necessarily, because there's so many writers out there that just blow me away every time. I'm like, I can't read it all. I'm on a Stephen Graham Jones kick right now, and I have to pull myself back. I don't have time to read everything the man's written in the last 20 years just because I'm late to the game discovering him. Anyway, so these last two are from this week, and I didn't read them because I need to catch up. So Ultimate Endgame Number one came out, and I have a feeling I need to catch up on all the to be fair to myself, I need to catch up on all the Ultimate books before I read this, because obviously this is the end game. And this is, wait, there's the Diabolical Genius page, which I do appreciate that they give us these recaps, but it doesn't look to me like they planted who the credits were. So I'm going to flip to the back of the book. I would, look, I know I'm going to be making this complaint every week. I have made this complaint every week, and often I cut it out. That's another reason I don't go live, because if I feel like there's something stupid that I said, I just cut it out. You may have noticed, and I will not apologize for it, nor are you making me, really. The writer is Dennis Camp. The artists are for Outside the Dome, Terry and Rachel Dodson, one of the best art teams out there. And the prologue and Inside the Dome is by Jonas Scharf. I feel that I've seen Jonas Scharf's work on Conan the Barbarian or Savage Sword of Conan. I could be wrong. Color artist Federico Blee and Edgar Delgado, and the letterer is Corey Petit from BC. I don't know much about BC. I should probably check out these lettering houses and try to understand how they do all this. But anyway, so Ultimate Endgame, because I love the Ultimate Universe, and the Ultimates number 19, which I know I'm a couple of issues behind on the Ultimates. Again, Dennis Camp, and okay, I think my issue here is that at least the Ultimate Universe, Marvel puts the credits at the very end consistently. So I should have done that in the first place. The Ultimates number 19. Writer is Dennis Camp, and the artist is Juan Frigeri. The color artists are Federico Blee and Edgar Delgado, and the letterer is VC's Travis Lanham. Again, so yeah, we're coming to the end of the Ultimate Universe, or at least this incarnation of the Ultimate Universe, and I really appreciate that. Okay, we're also at the end of 2025. So, like I said, as usual, I miss my self-imposed deadline of, hey, these were great comics of 2025. So that's going to happen in very early 2026. I promise you. I got distracted by an illness this week, and there's so much else that I'm trying to pack in. So, thank you those who have been watching regularly, and if you are going to subscribe, I would really appreciate that, because this has been the most consistent video project that I've done, and you may not know what a major milestone that is for me. I think I've managed to do 6 in a row, more or less weekly. Like I said, I've combined 2 weeks into one here, but that's because it's the end of the year and it's the holidays. So I hope you've had happy holidays. I hope there are still happy holidays ahead of you. I'm one of those people that we call it justification for laziness. I don't know. I don't like to take down my holiday decorations until January 6th, and not a moment before, because of the 12 days of Christmas. I just like the feeling. And so maybe you do too. I still bought a Christmas ornament today for my wife. Don't tell her. It's going to be a surprise. Anyway, so thank you. Like I said, subscribe. Hope you are enjoying reading Fanboy Planet, and there's plenty of cool stuff on there right now. I just wrote my semi-annual anti-AI screed. It's not anti-AI. I want to go on the record here and say, look, I do see the use in certain business functions, in certain ways of AI. It's taking the idea of replacing people creatively. That's where I have to draw the line, and we can too. So, by the way, as always, if I missed a book you love, tell me. I just ordered a couple of trade paperbacks at House of Secrets, because I realized, as I was going through a stack of trades, I have volume 3 of a series. I don't have volume 1 and 2. So they didn't have them in stock, but I like to give my money to my local shop over one of the big ones. And I'm going to say that as well. I do try to find links in Fanboy Planet articles to bookshop.org where I can. Sometimes I do have to go back to Amazon, and I know I have a love-hate relationship with all of it. There is just no way to be 100% clean if you are in the midst of it all. So, I'm not looking for absolution. I'm just saying I try. I try to give you better options when I can, and nothing beats being able to go to an actual comic shop, which to my own detriment, you know, as far as putting links on my site. You know, I'd still rather you go to your local small business and support them. But maybe I'm a small business. I don't know. Anyway, I've gone on too long. So thank you, subscribe, and uh, let's start 2026 and use your powers for good.